Manos, The Hands of Fate.
That's quite a film, isn't it?
1966. Independent horror film. Directed, produced, stars Harold P. Warren. The plot of the film revolves around a family going on vacation. They get lost on their way to or in El Paso, Texas. They stumble across a lodge, and it's very unclear in the movie. I'm assuming there was some kind of supernatural means that got them there, because when they got there, they were like, we didn't see this house before. So I'm assuming something draws them to the house. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. I mean, you'd have to wait a long time for someone to accidentally stumble across a house in the middle of nowhere to get your victims. But it's the home of a polygamous pagan cult leader named the Master. And he has his 6 wives and his servant Torgo. For me, Torgo is the only thing that makes this movie watchable. I will be 100% honest with you. I've seen this movie several times, and it's either been the the Mystery Science 3000 version or the Riff Track version. And Riff Tracks is basically just a couple of the guys from Mystery Science Theater 3000. I've never actually watched a movie on its own. Have you?
Yeah, actually, I've seen it I've seen it twice on its own. I made sure because I had the DVD of the MST 3000 version, but because I had that, I wanted to find the original too. So I got that as well, and I've seen it twice, including
You're
today.
twice the man that I am then. I can't imagine watching this without the riffing or something to keep you engaged through all these long scenes of just like nothing happening, takes that are just way too long. Obviously, this was not a professional filmmaker, not a professional crew, not a professional cast. None of them got paid. They all took profit sharing, which sometimes can pay off big. You know, I think with Gravity, Sandra Bullock ended up getting like a few $100 million off of it because it was profit sharing.
Right.
So sometimes that can really pay off, you know, maybe like a film like Star Wars or something. But with this, not so much. So no one got paid for the movie based on their performance. They didn't deserve it. It was a cult hit. But what are your general thoughts before we dive into this a little more?
Well, you point out about the MST 3000 version. Yeah, that's it makes it a lot more fun to watch a movie like this. It's a struggle, but again, at least it's only 68 minutes long, so I can get through it. It's not a good film by any means. There's at least some entertainment value because it's so bad. But yeah, it's a test.
It is. It is. I actually interviewed a filmmaker named Joe Sherlock, co-producing the director of photography for Manos Returns, which is
Oh,
the
okay.
sequel to this. And he did it with the girl who played the daughter in the film. Did a crowdfunding, and they did the movie together. I had no idea when I interviewed him that I would actually be reviewing this movie, or I may have gotten more information that we could use for the actual review. But yeah, I barely remembered. I was like, yeah, I did interview that guy, and he talked about this a little bit. So, but let's talk about some members of the cast, because there's not a lot to say about the film that hasn't been said without being too repetitive by professional riffers and things like that. But Jackey Neyman, I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce her last name, Neyman Jones. She played Debbie, the daughter, and she's the one that worked with Joe Sherlock on the sequel to Manos. She was the only one that actually got any compensation. I think it said on the trivia that she got a brand new bicycle, and her dog as well was in the film, and he got a bunch of dog food, and they were the only people who got any kind of real compensation.
Peppy.
Her father was actually the master, which was interesting, and their family, him and his wife, made the costumes, the props, and did the painting of Manos as well, of the master as well. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Any thoughts on Debbie or any of that backstory stuff that I'm sure you've probably read as well?
Yeah, I didn't read so much today, but I remember I reviewed this myself on my channel maybe about a year ago, and I remember reading that. I remember reading that the daughter still has some of the props, including the cape, the original cape still exists. I think I remember reading that as well. That'd be kind of cool to see.
Mhm. Cape, robe, whatever that
Yeah.
monstrosity was. It was
Mhm.
actually one of the highlights of the movie is when you see that
Yeah.
ridiculous hands on it. So it was pretty good. And Tom Neyman, her father, who played the master, he was also in the sequel. Those were the only two. Those two and the actress who played the wife are the only ones that made it into the sequel. They may have been the only survivors. Who knows? I'm sure they would have liked to have gotten as many of the previous cast members in it, because that's what people, when they crowdfund this stuff, they want to see the
Right.
original people in the movie and stuff like that. But he actually improvised his monologue where he's like, Manos, God of Primal Dark. He actually improvised that, which makes sense because from what I read in the script, he just stood there and did nothing. And that pretty much falls in line with a lot of what we see in this movie. His character's just standing there doing absolutely nothing in scenes that are supposed to be tense.
Yeah. No, you're completely right. And I'm struck by the humor in it. This movie is so bad, but there are some scenes in there that are just completely laughable, and that makes it somewhat enjoyable on some level. Even if I don't have people riffing while I'm watching it, it is still so bad that you can laugh at certain scenes.
Yeah, a lot of those scenes where they're just standing there staring at each other as well. It's just like somebody say something, somebody do
Mm.
something. You know, it's just like anything happen, please. But let's talk a little bit about the filmmaker, Harold P. Warren, who played Michael. He also played the lead in the film. I can't knock a guy who is the lead director and writer and cinematographer of his own movie. I've done that plenty of times, and I've been in plenty of movies that people said are bad as well. Not quite to this level, but
Hey,
sometimes it
it's
pays to be so
yeah,
so bad rather than just mediocre.
it's a bad movie, but hey, it's a movie. He got it done. He found a way to get it done. So power to him.
Yeah, an interesting thing I read that's actually more funny than anything else that happened in the movie was that he wanted to get limousines for the premiere, but he can only afford one. So the actors in the crew were around the corner, and the limo would pick up as many of them who could fit in the limo at a time, and then circle back and pick up the others until they all got into the premiere. I thought that was just hilarious. Oh man, it's obviously the voice dubbing was actually something else that was kind of weird. You could tell that he was doing multiple voices even within the same scenes. You could tell it was the same voice of Harold playing multiple male characters in the same scene. The most jarring one was whoever played the little girl Debbie was clearly a middle-aged woman, so that was interesting. And I did like the fact that you said it's a bad movie. He embraced the fact that it was a bad movie, unlike the filmmaking couple that did Troll 2, who go down to their grave thinking it's a great movie. So the fact that he embraced this was good. The only sad part is he died in 1985, 8 years prior to the Mystery Science Theater guys making this into a cult hit. But otherwise than that, it's cool that he kind of embraced it. I even read that on Halloween, he would dress up as the master with the robe and things like that. So that was interesting, I thought.
Didn't I read again? I don't remember. I didn't read it today, but didn't the guy who played Torgo either die or commit suicide shortly after this movie was made too? Am I right about that?
Yeah, John Reynolds, who played Torgo, he was suffered from depression his whole life, and he committed suicide the same year the movie came out. Not saying those two things are related in any way, but he was only 25, and it was kind of interesting because you look at his performance; it came off so weird. From what everyone who's online who's commented on the film who was part of it said, he was on drugs the entire time, mainly LSD, like acid and stuff like that. So it kind of explains his weird performance. But yeah, he did unfortunately kill himself. It was interesting with his character because I read he was supposed to be a satyr, which is a half man, half goat, which kind of explains the leg things. But he was just the weirdest character. And when that theme music kicks in, when he starts walking from one side of the set to the other, it's fucking hilarious. I actually read as well that there was supposed to be an intended sequel, and that's why Torgo got away, and it was going to be the return of Torgo that was going to end up being in the sequel. Clearly, that didn't happen for good reason. Last thing I want to touch on is the wives. They were models. They didn't look like it, but in fairness to them, being part of low budget productions, there's a lot that can be done with hair, professional hair, makeup, and good lighting. But these look like mothers. They did not look like models in any way. One of the funnier scenes in the movie to me was after the master did this big speech that I previously said that he came up with on his own. It did a smash cut from where he turns his wives alive to him sitting down with his hands on his knees, looking dejected as they're all like bickering back and forth.
It's like, be careful what you wish for. What did I do? You know, that's exactly what's going on there. It was awesome. That's one of the best scenes in the movie.
It's one of the best scenes in a lot of movies. Like you said, be careful what you wish for. Here's this deity. He has all these women, you know, all these wives, and he's just like, oh, it was priceless. But yeah, I thought the wives stuff was interesting. The one thing that came off like very unsexy to me is the wardrobing, because they're all dressed in white and they have these red streaks on their back. It looks like they were all menstruating in these white outfits, but I read they were supposed to actually be tails because they were supposed to be like devil women or whatever, but it did not come off that way in any kind of a way. So
no, I never got that vibe.
Yeah. So I kind of wanted to just like highlight some of the characters, just because with the story, there's only so much you can say that hasn't been said. But I didn't let you get much in. Is there any other things you wanted to touch base on?
There's not a whole hell of a lot you can say about this movie. It's a piece of shit is what it is. But it is enjoyable at some level. So, you know, 68 minutes long, how much can you say about it? Especially how much can you say that hasn't been said already?